I wanted to give you the intro here. We have one of the nicest in the game out of New Orleans, Louisiana. Of course, he goes by the name of Pell, one of the most underrated in the game. He's a true MC. You got to check out his newest project, of course, man. I listened to it. I was tapped in. The bars and content is there, but we've known this for years. How does it feel that you're finally starting to get a little more praise that's long overdue?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like I feel like I'm getting a little bit more. It just feels like it's consistent. I know where to find the love. Like I feel like in terms of like underrated, people always who think that they're underrated on in terms of with themselves. I feel like that's something that personally like I don't feel as much anymore. I feel like there's people who really, really love my music and really show up at everything that I do. And then there's some that may not be hip to it yet, but they always get there. You know what I mean? So I think it's all about like it's on the goal of those who say that I'm underrated or not. I'm not just talking to you, but I'm
Yeah,
just
I know.
I know, right? We coming out the gate. But like any of my fans and stuff, it's like, they always tell me that, like, you're underrated, man. It's go crazy. People should know more and more. But it's like, honestly, like just show people the music and it won't feel like that anymore. Like I think
Yeah.
that it's all about just spreading the love, spreading the music.
And that's the thing with record labels nowadays is that there's so many talented artists that, in which we have to label underrated because you guys don't get the praise that's due because of the power of these record companies that push their own agendas. And it's great to see creatives such as yourself that push through it all and still get that spotlight and build their own fan bases.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. It's a blessing to be here too.
Yeah,
Really.
man. No, I appreciate it.
I mean,
iHeartRadio, Sports and Hip Hop with DJ Mad Max, of course, Mad Max Radio, Live 365. We're here.
I appreciate the jersey and the hat. Like you doing a lot right now. I got the LA cap. I'm like, all right, let me go find my cap real quick. It's for Louisiana today.
Oh,
That's
of
how.
course. That's why I had to put it on. I usually whoever I'm interviewing, if they're from a place where they have a sports team that I have, I'll throw the jersey and hat on.
Max, did you watch the game last night? I mean,
I
yesterday.
did. They played great. Winston, I'm gonna tell you right now, Winston, the hate that guy got years ago was just unnecessary because he's lighting it up down there in New Orleans.
Yeah, I feel like you can't be judged on what you did as a kid. I mean, some people, unfortunately, like once you turn 18, whatever, people want to, judge you as an adult, not just in the court of law, but in the
Yeah.
court of public opinion. And sometimes people got to grow up, man. You got to give people time to grow instead of remembering the worst that they did and pinning that against them their whole entire career. Because this man is showing, like, we love him. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
real. I'm not speaking on behalf of everybody, but the majority of us love that man. He's doing his thing. So shout out to James.
Yeah, shout out to him. He's putting it on for you guys down there, and it took over well right as in a transition for Breeze because everyone thought that as soon as Breeze retired, oh here we go. They thought, oh now is going to be our terrible period, but Winston's fit in well. So
And I love the offense too. Like, I mean, it's just always, and I mean, honestly, this year defense is incredible. But like, I think the fact that we have a good system always has benefited us. Even when we've seen, when Breeze went out, last time it was, we had somebody step in, and Teddy is shout out to Teddy. I mean, I wish things could have worked out where he could have still been, Anyway, we love
yeah,
Jamie,
yeah,
but that's like pointing to the fact that we could do it in multiple ways, and I think that Jameis is the new way. So I'm
he
excited.
is. How you feeling about this newest project though, Floating While Dreaming 2? This is your
Man,
follow up to the one that released in 2014.
man, I think it's long overdue. I think there were a lot of projects that I thought were floated while dreaming too, and then it got to the point where I was finishing and I was like, nah, this is something new. It doesn't feel like how it felt when I was making that, and just the amount of life that I've been living over the time, the past 2 years in terms of when Gravity came out and now when Floating While Dreaming 2 is coming out, I feel like the amount of effort that I put in, the amount of focus I had, and just the amount of life that I lived in between the two projects felt way more impactful than the time that I had put in even in the past like 4 years from like Floating While Dreaming 2 to like Gravity or anything like that, or like 2 years. I mean, yeah, 5 years actually that would be. So I think um, it was just a lot of time to reflect, and that's how I felt floating while dreaming. The original one came about was one through lucid dreaming. I was a big fan of the Richard Linklater film Waking Life that I mentioned that all the time, and that was a big inspiration in that first album. Just trying to make something that was a little bit trippier sonically, and also something that was a little bit more whimsical, if you will. If and it did its thing. But but with the stories kind of, being relatable and down to earth with, a middle class black kid dropping out of college, it's like the college dropout part too. But like for real though, it's like,
It is.
something that's relatable to kids that, I always say this, and this is something my homies always joke about, like that don't get lineups or like, that don't get haircuts and shit like that. Like for the black kids that, exist other than or can't be put in a box, and typecast or stereotyped. And I feel like that's always what my music was about and still is to this day. So Floating While Dreaming 2 is definitely an extension of that in a way where I feel more focused than I've ever been, and I feel very connected to the music. It's very vulnerable.
I want to get into your background influences because I know that you come from a music background family. Your mother was in the opera, I believe. She was a singer.
Yeah, my mother was okay, so she was an opera singer in college. She was actually very, very dope. Shout out to Southern Miss to the top university. And she still got it too, which is crazy. Like very, she sings in the choir. She should be leading that bitch by now, but I'm sorry if I curse.
Oh no, you're free to curse.
Oh, good, good. It's Twitch. Okay, I got you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, she did her thing, and then my pops was like asked to be like one of the earliest cash money CPAs or some crazy shit. He's like super good with math and numbers, also a bunch of other stuff. And he tried to start his own record label named after my brother, but named it backwards. My brother's name is Micah, so it was called Team Records. I think they put out like one thing. I don't know. Like
But
one,
just,
they put out a single.
they put out a single. Can people check this out anywhere, just in case there's
I
people
don't
interested?
think so. If somebody can find it, please let me know.
Yeah.
I don't even have anything from him, so I don't.
Yeah, we definitely got to check that out, especially one of your fans if they're listening. Please go check that out and let Pell know, please.
That out, please.
Oh, your background influences besides your family, and you played instruments in your early life as well. I want to know who some of the favorite rappers that you listened to growing up, because you kind of mentioned something before as just getting out of that stereotypical box that
Yeah.
artists are put in, especially black artists. And you look at artists such as the 80s. After I actually just mentioned your top influences first, but then I'll get into what I was going to ask you.
Okay. My top musical influences, I'd say Stevie is definitely up there. Um, Now Kendrick, I'd say, because throughout the course of his career, I just like kept following and continue to get inspired. Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, Kanye West, of course. Um, I'd say Vampire Weekend, Fleet Foxes, Death Cab for Cutie, um, Justin Timberlake,
Mm.
Pharrell, of course, Kid Cudi, of course. I think there's also some. How would I say? I think I like NERD as a whole too, because like even when I mention Pharrell, I feel like what I love most is like the NERD records.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was huge for me. I like the stuff that they did with Kenna. Kenna was like I used to blast like New Sacred Cow like all the time. Like that Vampire Weekend were like in constant rotation. Then Fleet Foxes is when I got a little bit more emotional. I like that Death Cab emotional. Um, I'd say the first concert I ever went to was an NSYNC concert. So like
Really?
it didn't really influence my music like
Mm-hmm.
that, but I saw how big you could take it. And just like in terms of sonically, like that was probably their best record that, no strings attached to her. So
Mm-hmm.
um, stuff like that. It's all over the place, bro.
Did you think at that moment when seeing NSYNC in concert that eventually you would be performing in front of dozens of crowds?
Oh hell nah.
No.
I was like, what's crazy? Like that night was ruined for me. I feel like we had to leave early from that night, and I can't remember whether somebody didn't have a pass or a ticket. I went with my brother. My brother took me to that concert, and two of his friends. But I think somebody didn't have a pass or something, so we only went in for like half or like 20 minutes of it and left. I'm not sure. So, but I was super young, so I was probably like 7 or like I don't know.
Yeah, so you're a little too young to remember to see, thinking, hey, maybe I may be on that stage someday. But eventually it did happen.
It did. What probably inspired me to like hit the stage like that
Mhm.
was a J. Cole concert. I was a junior in high school, and my brother went to Hampton University, and they were doing a show at the Quad, or I can't remember what they call it. It's like their I'm calling it the Quad, but I don't know what they call it.
Is it their spring concert?
It might have been, yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
their spring concert. So it was there, and it was check out this lineup though. It was like Ryan Leslie, J. Cole, and then like it's an R&B singer. I'm blanking on the name, but I don't even remember her performance as much as Ryan Leslie. I was a big fan because actually he's an influence as well
Yeah.
because he used to do those YouTube videos where he was just making the beats and was going crazy, and like he definitely inspired me. But that show, um, J. Cole, that was the first time I had ever heard his music too. So like I think the warm up had
It
just
was the
dropped.
war. So this is his mixtape J. Cole era.
Yeah. So like the warm up had just dropped. He had just signed. And like he mentioned that while he was rapping. And I was just like, damn, I knew none of the song. I was just like, I gotta listen to this immediately. And so like afterwards, like I jammed that like all the time that like the whole time I was at Hampton and then or for that trip to visit my brother. And then when I went back home, like got inspired to like produce as well and stuff like that. So he definitely was a big inspiration for me, like hitting the stage because I saw how somebody could rock a crowd for real. That was probably the first time I saw somebody like really rock a crowd. And I've been to a lot of Essence Fests, you know what I mean, and seeing like Ye, and I'd seen Beyonce, but I've never seen like the level of intimacy that was in that venue. I feel like made it more tangible. Like you know what I mean, made me see something different. So it was cool.
J. Cole, another one of the great MCs out here. Yeah,
Definitely.
I was actually gonna run the sideline story because I was like, was this during sideline story? And you said the warm up. That's crazy. That's even more crazier because I never have heard any performances during his mixtape era. But usually when you first come out the gate, that's where you're at your hungriest. And I'm not surprised that he was able to rock the crowd at that time.
For real. And the story was just begin. I think like the fact that he had just gotten signed during that time, I think like was just it was definitely something that he mentioned to the crowd. But even like me, at 16, 17 here now, I'm like, what the hell, man? Come on, let's go. Like, and he had gone to college. Everything is just like it was very on path for what I wanted to do. So it was cool.
And during your time, in college, did you pursue any talent showcases while on the campus? Because I know during my time in college, I knew a lot of the rappers on campus, most of them, and they would always get involved in those talent showcases. And it really, I think, in college is when you determine that you want to choose rap as your career, and that's what I know for most of the artists at St. John's when I attended there last year and my previous 4 years before I graduated. That this was the path that they were going to choose. Was it in college where you really found your footing and there were people that were big supporters of you and to start going into this career?
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Um, I think that was definitely I met my peers like and I met all the people that I worked with like when I first came up during college. I think it was a breeding ground for me to think for myself for the first time in a different way, and then also fall in love with music in a hungry way. Like nothing was stopping me. Like I felt like in high school I'd kind of tinker with it and shit like that. I never really felt like I was as focused on it. And then once I hit sophomore year of college, I realized I started doing shows and started we built a collective called TFG, that feel good, which was me and my brothers. And we really had the campus on lock for real. Like you can ask anybody, like, come on, 2010 through 2014, who held it down? Come on. We know. For real.
I believe it.
This up. I can't make this up.
No, you
So,
can't.
I can't. I can't. I
No.
mean, Google it. No, I'm just
Yeah, I
kidding.
know. And you're here,
Facebook it.
you're
Facebook it.
Pell.
Facebook it. Yeah, Facebook it. Um, so we did that, and I think that really just my mind was most people, go to college to find a job. Other people like myself go there to create their own, and I feel like it was that time when I realized I could create my own. So that's when everything hit into hyperdrive. I had a homie helping with beats, homie helping with management. Everybody just started working on their own stuff, but we all came together for TFG things, my own things, and everybody just steel sharpened steel. So everybody was winning off of one another.
College is probably the most important place to network early in your career too. People don't realize, people sleep on it because they're too busy, doing the nonsense in their dorms when they could be out networking.
Facts. I mean, we did a lot of nonsense. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, man, every night it was 5 beats a week for 3 summers. No, I was literally like partying halfway through it. I think the focus that I'm talking about is like when it comes to vision, right? Like I think there's those times where you know what you need to do, and that may not be like, locking yourself away and not network, or like, not partying, I mean, and stuff like that. That's another way to network, you know what I mean? Like by sharing those moments and having those things now that I can talk about, um, that I wouldn't had I just locked myself away, just focused on one side of it.
And you did. But most importantly, I want to talk about your move from the whole thing that happened with Katrina.
Yeah, so that move was very, I think that move, I didn't know how pivotal it was when I was younger. I was
Yeah.
13, so I felt like I was just excited to leave home. It felt like vacation at first, right? And then on top of that, I was able to be a new kid at a new school again. So I felt like that was really cool to me because I was gonna have that opportunity. A lot of times you don't have that op to like, now that I'm older, I'd probably call it like rebrand yourself, right? But like, I think I had an opportunity to actually just be different and kind of classify myself as an artist. I was kind of a class clown, to be honest. Like both of those things together, and I threw parties in high school, like like things like that. Like I felt like I wouldn't have done if I was in New Orleans because I felt like I was in New Orleans. I was more sports centered, like centered. I played baseball. I was really fucking good at baseball.
I did research that.
Hey, you better ask about. But for real, I was good at baseball. I did baseball when I went to Mississippi. I like dropped that and basically started playing sports that I didn't play before, like soccer and like football intensely, and then stuff like that. But I think the move overall was good because my mom is from Vicksburg, Mississippi, so I moved to Madison, and all I had with me was this beat machine that my pops had got me, a Korg beat machine,
Mhm.
and that was how I first started learning how to make beats. I didn't even know I was making beats at the time, but like I was really just, uh, it was like a memory in a bank, and I didn't know how to really save a full beat or like structure it out, but I would just make loops and I would call it a song. It would just be a whole loop that like I have 12 little pads that I could build it off of, and then that's it, and it was cool. So that's how I got like my start in like caring about that side of music. I already played trombone
That's
since
right.
since fourth grade.
Mhm.
So like I played trombone for like 10 years. And
You consider playing trombone further though.
I do. But
Yeah.
I also like it's crazy. I got it's in the other room, but I got like a guitar, keys. I'm trying to always do things for more the production side than like playing live side. But I think I'm gonna do my main goal probably in 2022, and now that I've finished this project, is like in terms of the live element, like playing as many things live as possible because I've been in the studio long enough cooking up shit that it's just time for me to use these things on stage.
Could we get a? Does this mean we could get a live album from you? A
Oh,
complete
definitely.
live album
Oh,
instead of just
definitely.
yeah.
We getting a live album.
Yeah, we
I
getting
got
it.
got it, even if it's a live EP, because
Mhm.
I'm thinking about two different ways where I want to do it. I think I could do every song for sure, but the way that I'm going to manipulate all these songs, I feel like I just want to get to the meat of what I would call even a condensed version of the record, and then that would be the live version. It's a live performance, not necessarily track by track. You feel me?
I think you could do that though because you hear the instruments and you care about production. That's something that a lot of rappers don't really care about nowadays. They just throw the 808s on and it's the same beats over and over and over again. Trust me. But you care about the production side of it, and that's important. Would you say that for any artist starting out, because it's obvious that you did with making your own beats, you think every artist should do that instead of just relying on a producer so they can get the feel? I feel as though you have to find your sound, and that's what you did.
Yeah, I feel like it's not even about just like producing. I think it's about like finding your sound is just finding what you like and sticking to it and like what fits with you. You know what I mean? Like I think one of the greatest examples of that when I first was listening to like rap was definitely Jay-Z. every beat was impeccable. Like, you know what I mean? His beat selection was crazy. And then you have the opposite where it's like Wayne will rap on anything, but it's like he's just so dope that it doesn't, he's the GOAT. It does not matter. Excuse me for not mentioning him earlier in terms of influence. Damn. Wayne, one of the GOATs, you know what I'm saying? Like the GOAT. I think that you have that you have two different types of artists in that, but one thing that we'll always remember about their classics is the beat, man. The beat got to be jamming, and it don't matter if you make it. It don't matter if your boy make it. It don't matter if somebody that you met on SoundCloud used to be SoundClick, used to be whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. YouTube, you know what I mean? Like I think that you got to find where the sauce is, and that'll help drive the record forward. Otherwise, you could drop a acapella. You know what I mean? I think it doesn't matter who's making it as long as you know what sounds good, as long as you got the ear.
Mm-hmm. You got that right. 2014, we got to get into your first release of Floating While Dreaming. The first one, this was one of the top independent artist releases that year. This is what really, I think, set
Let's
the tone
talk
for.
about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
We
it.
got to
For
give
real.
you flowers for that, because
Talk about it.
think about all these artists and think about 2014. The game wasn't as complex as it was. Look at it now, all the artists that are trying to get on through social media. Then
Right.
it was just basically starting and you did it.
Facts. And I don't even think what's crazy about it too is like I still don't think that I was teetering on like the side of just like more of the DSPs than just the social media. If you want to count like DSPs as social media, because there is a way that you can share music through these DSPs and stuff like that, I consider myself on that side of the socials, because at the end of the day, like even now we're talking about how more complex it is. And I'm gonna go back to like just the genesis of like the Floating While Dreaming stuff. But like I don't really interact, and I'm getting better now with social media like that. Like I feel like it's all the my biggest followings are on social, like are on music platforms. Like you know what I mean?
It's more than Instagram and Twitter.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Because people are listening to the music. It's not, I'm not selling, you know, just a persona. I'm selling like real life, or I'm really, you know, getting to the music. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's something that has always worked for me. And in 2014, you think about, you know, social media being more on the infancy side or whatever, there in terms of artistry, and you see that all the spots where music hubs were on the internet, that's where I was thriving. So I feel like that's that it's for the musically curious, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's why Floating While Dreaming did so well, because the sound is so expansive. It's just like, wait, well, where is this coming from? New Orleans, Mississippi. Where is this coming from? You know what I mean? It's like it was confusing to a lot of listeners that, you know, were used to the hub still. Like I think Atlanta was booming in its own way, definitely in the mixtape scene. New Orleans, shout out to Currency. But I think that was more isolated, right? And then you have New York having its period, Chicago. There were a lot of bigger cities, I feel like, that had a lot of little like bubbles going on that created movements, whereas like New Orleans at that time um, didn't have as much of a stronghold on the same channels. So I think one of the things that helped me with Floating While Dreaming was definitely like people sharing it on these on Spotify, like being playlisted like crazy, like before we even knew the importance of that. You know what I mean? And things like that. It's beautiful that it happened the way that it should. But as far as the music side, I think that was that was one of my most like vivid moments in my life in terms of the times in which I created that album. A lot of trips to LA for sure. Um, shout out to Leor Cohen, shout out to, you know, 300. They sponsored my first trips out to LA.
That's right.
You know, I didn't do the deal, but I definitely met all the right people that I was supposed to meet, and through that, you know, we networked our way around, and I feel like the things that I already had in my head, the things that I was already creating in Mississippi at the time, were finally getting, you know, the right channels involved. So I think that was really really inspiring for me. And I remember sleeping on my homie's couch for sure. On one of my homies from, shout out to Brandon from Alabama. I was well, he's from Atlanta, but we linked up in Alabama, and we yeah, just went to work. When I was in LA, I just went to work every day, just working nonstop. And then when I would come home, I worked at Subway, still Subway at the airport. So never forget those days. Shout out
It's,
to Mr. Carlton. Thank you for the job, for real. I fuck with it. Um, it was a crazy time, man. Like,
yeah.
I'll never forget the day that I finally like. I think I went through the terminal in which I worked at the Subway, and it was just like, my coworkers were like, "Oh shit!" I don't think I got a sandwich that day, but like I definitely was like, "Yo, hey, you see me? I'm not coming back," and
Yeah.
then that actually happened. So it was cool.
Yeah. No, but your experience is just with this album and I think you made your way out to New York too.
Yeah, a lot for that project for
Yeah.
sure. I definitely connected a lot of the dots on the PR side. Shout out to Greg at Big Hassle. Um, just a lot of dots aligned, man. I can't. I'm blessed that a lot of dots like aligned and stars collided, whatever the fuck, to make a beautiful storm, and it worked.
It did. Can you believe that in 2014 with this Floating While Dreaming that the music scene would just change as much as it did to the point where you're creating all kinds of sounds on this project. It's your sound to where the point now it's everyone sounds the same. It's all one trend, and that's what sells. And Instagram and all these social media platforms, TikTok has become the selling point for these companies to the point where they're not looking for creativity, they're looking at the numbers. I kind of want your thoughts on that, being someone that was successful based off of the creativity standpoint.
Right. So that's why it makes my situation um, a little bit like difficult to explain sometimes when a younger artist will ask me how should I approach this, and maybe their music does sound a little bit more like everything that's out, or they have different goals than me. I think that it all relies on what your goals are. I feel like if you're playing a label system game, if you're playing a game of trying to get those big numbers, then you should play to what audiences are listening to. You know what I mean? I think if that's your goal from the beginning, I think that there as for me personally, I'm a fan of making music and making music as therapy and making money off that music. True, but my main goal, where maybe it used to be just reach, is understanding and also consistency of product. So like I'm just a fan of like making sure that it's authentically me 24/7, because that's going to keep the people that actually really fuck with my music back in rotation. Every time that I drop something, they're supporting it. Every time I drop hats, what I mean, shirts and whatever, what I mean, they're supporting me. So I don't need to, play into the game the same way that may have thought I had to when I first started. Even though I was still making stuff that was authentically mine. I mean, the voices in your ear that tell you like, you got to make this type of record, this type of record. That those fade away because now 7 years later from Floating While Dreaming, I'm still, right under 1 million listeners on Spotify, or like, monthly listeners. I mean, but like, millions of streams on songs. We just did Juice, we just did Falling Apart, all these things with Apple commercials. I was just in Tom and Jerry, this year, and Bad Trip. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? All these things are happening. No, it's just like
Exactly.
it doesn't matter. Like I feel like a lot of people think about it as like so linear in terms of like there's one path that you have to follow in order to be successful in music and in order to you know get recognition. But I don't even think that the numbers are so fragmented now that that doesn't even quantify you know the ironically the numbers don't quantify the amount of success that you can have. And I think that every artist should pay attention to that, because I look at things like, for me, one of the greatest things for me is touring. And a lot of times touring doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to have 1 million followers. That means that there's going to be you know hundreds upon hundreds of people that show up at the shows.
Yeah.
I won't even be able to directly say that it correlates. You know what I mean? Because that's a different type of energy that you would have to put into social media than in your shows. There's some people that look great online. You go to
Yeah.
a show, I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, for real, like I really don't know. And that's like the reality of it. Or there's somebody who may have a big record who comes down here, doesn't sell out, may have an like, top 10, top 20, top 50, you know what I mean? And we don't know who's that, you know what I mean? And I think you have to understand what your goals are in this. And if your goals are to create that long lasting relationship with your fans and people that'll get and understand your music, then you have to just be consistent with yourself and be honest with yourself every step along with the process. That doesn't mean that, and when I say honest or like consistent, I don't think that means accessible, because right, like social media has like created this um, um, you know, synergy between those words, where I think like people think being consistent online is also being like it translates in terms with of the artistry, but it doesn't necessarily do that. I think you can be consistent in sharing, but um, I like to be consistent in quality. So I think that that's my goal is always, and when I say quality, I mean quality of music.
Yeah.
So I think that that's always should be the goal as any artist. Like do that first, and you'll have people around you that'll help push it. Because once you're consistent and people know what they're getting, and people know what to get from you, it helps them better explain it to other people. It helps them get other people on board. Then you have a team of people who want to help you, maybe directly or just your fans, and they all understand you and are a part of that journey. People love that, So and you love it too. I love it. So, um, yeah, I feel like that's a long-winded way to answer that question.
But it's important, and in what you said, the quantity, the quality over quantity is what I say. It's always got to be quality of music over the quantity, because of everything that's just being released nowadays, especially with the attention spans of gnats. There's all these artists constantly releasing releasing music, and it's insane, and it really is just a disservice to artists such as yourself. And you're right, put these artists on these stages, they're not going to perform that the way they act on Instagram, and they're not going to have the performance skill of a musician, an artist, a true rapper. And we're going to see that. Put them on the stage at the Apollo, I'm sure they'll get booed off.
Yo, I performed at the Apollo, bro.
How was your Apollo experience? We got to hear about this.
Shout out to Tank for bringing me on the road. That was incredible. My Apollo experience was incredible. My pops was there. It was good. I got to, uh, rub the stump or whatever, and I got good luck. So the whole night was magical. I love that show. Shout out to my bros who were there with me, Juan and Antwiggity, and it was a beautiful night. I can't even lie. It's literally all a blur because I like blacked out when I got on stage, but I definitely remember having the time of my life. So it was dope.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not the only artist that's happened to, because they don't want to hear the boos. They want to go out there, perform, and then walk off.
Womp. No, none of that. None of that happened. No womps.
No,
none of that.
Of course. No, leave that to the mumble rappers, but
I love mumble rap too. Most of my songs start off as mumbles. I start with melodies and mumbles, then I write.
No, but your music is different, though. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be on the show if it wasn't.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Too Much. That's my favorite one.
Hey,
because it's bars.
Hey, man, I had to do one of them. I like playing with my flow, and also like making sure that motherfuckers know I ain't lost or half stepped with any of these bars. But I think some songs it's more important to do that than others. And Too Much was that for me. Like it's Mr. Edgar Allan Poe, like shit like that.
I was gonna bring up the Edgar Allan Poe rhyme. What was your favorite Edgar Allan Poe book growing up, or more precisely, poem?
What's funny? I don't even really think that I liked his poetry when I was growing up, because it spooked me the fuck out. I don't think I really I wasn't on that wave. I wasn't like, oh, this is deep. I was more like, yo, this guy's sick. Let me go Robert Frost. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't think that I was really. I think that was more just the bar from the idea of the other side, which is we from New Orleans, we be drinking, but I think he was an innocent bystander in that line.
He's definitely one of the greatest, but he had a mind of his own and writing all that horror stuff.
Facts.
Crazy. Flight. That visual is insane too. Flight. I like that one.
Oh, thank you. That, I really love that video. I just think that is so different in terms of like the idea of doing a one take. And I'm a big fan of one takes. I mean, I did one other one for Bitch Ass off my last project and off of Gravity. And I really enjoy the how everything has to be right. You know what I mean, shot wise and performance wise, and I love the idea of performance. You know what I mean? It's very raw in that way, and I think that that's one thing that I really was looking forward to that, and I was inspired by multiple things, but Michelle Gondry was definitely a big inspiration on that one because of this video that he did with Metronomy. That was like it's love letters. It's like basically like similar in terms of the way that you're circling a live performance going on, but I feel like we added in terms of like these cool little graphics going in between where we're like crossing, and also we're running. Me and Dave are actually like running back and forth between them, which is hilarious. It looks like it's edited that we're like always there. I was literally in a box running left and right to like make sure I'm back on in the scene, back in the frame, Like and it was funny. Like if the actual sounds were on there, you would just laugh your ass off because like all the time it was just like you hear Griffin, who's the director. Shout out to Griffin. I love Griffin DeStefano. And Huey just like, all right, now back. And like you just like hear like, just directions. It's fucking hilarious. I love it.
See, we don't realize what goes on behind these music videos, but it's a lot more complicated than people think.
Let's talk about it. They built those so they built the boards. I think it was like a total of 8 boards that were connected to make those windows for us to walk around and also for the camera to shoot around. And shout out to Tyler for doing that. She's excellent, and everybody else that worked on those. It was amazing.
Yeah, music videos are basically short movies. That's all they are, unless you don't put any effort into them and you just get a car and a model and a stack of cash.
Fast.
Right? You got to get more. They got to get more creative with the music videos. They're not doing that either, but
yeah,
you're keeping that up at least.
I got to try something different. I feel like that this was like probably my most performative music video, just in the way that it was shot alone, but also like the fact that it was, a circular motion. There weren't cuts to different scenes. It was one take, and I love that. Like nobody does that to me. Like right now, I feel like, there are a few, but I think overall in the rap game is pretty rare. So yeah. I like that.
Is Flight the one that's doing the most numbers right now amongst the fans?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right, and then
I could tell.
we just dropped a live video for So Cold. So people love that. Shout out to my brother.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too. That's one hell of a performance.
Woo, woo. I love that song. I love like just the idea of where my vocal range can go in terms of like not necessarily like hitting notes. I'm talking about my tone, and I love how I sound on that record, and it feels like something that's for me. And I love tapping into the R&B side of things. So everybody has been hitting me up about that one as well. And I think like third, people love Ring Ring Ring. So that one's pretty crazy because like I dropped the project, and then the day after Hurricane Ida came through Louisiana, and Ring 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 is talking about like it's like hurricane after hurricane, it's raining in New Orleans, like all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's talking about how New Orleans is like one of those romantic cities that keeps calling you back, but like for me, it's all about the vices that like keep calling me back to the city. And I wrote that before I actually moved back, so it made it even more powerful to me because there's always been something calling me back to New Orleans. And the biggest thing as of late was, to start the global warming project, and we've been kicking it up ever since. Volume 1.
The fact that you put this collective together, it shows how selfless that you are, because you want to take pride in putting a collective together. We don't get that anymore. That's another thing that you bring to the game.
Yo, appreciate it, man. Like, I think that I think there's people that do it, but I think that people are nervous about where they are in their own careers to be able to give a leg up when they can. And I don't agree with that. Sometimes I understand why some people do it. I think it's like when you operate out of like, uh desperation,
Hmm.
which this game is, you got to hustle, like, you know what I mean? And I think you can hustle and still operate with abundance, but that's just me. But when you act out of like desperation, sometimes it can be like, why would I give this type of look, or why would I spend time that's not directly affecting what I'm doing, or like my uh the attention on me, you know what I mean? Like, I think that not everybody is able to do that because they see things a little differently based on their come up or where they're from. And in the way that I've been, you know, coming up, and the way that I've came up is through love. So I think that I want to be a mirror of that to everybody that shows it to me. And I think basically that's what this whole project is. These artists aren't that random. There's some people that I met through this project, that now I'm friends with, but overall 90% of the project is made with people that I've collaborated with several times, and that I believe in their craft, and they've helped me. You know what I mean? It's not like as simple as like I'm giving them a look or I'm starting a collective or anything like that. These people helped me. And then it was just like, it was about time that some of these people were brought to the forefront of what I do. So I think that that's what this project was for me. But then there's a whole nother reason why it's important to everybody else that's involved. But that's the selfish reason for me. I'm like, yo, y'all got to see this, like, But
Now, have you been able to go on tour with the collective because of everything going on right now, global warming? Have you been able to go on tour with them with everything with COVID?
well, see, that's the plan.
Mhm.
I think like right now it's just a lot of moving parts because we're so big of a collective right now. I think that we're just seizing the best opportunities, and mainly a lot of those have been ironically in the city in New Orleans.
Mhm.
So with plans to continue making music and to continue doing community based service, as well as like things that help artists in the city and also creatives in the city at large, I think that that's our main focus. And then when it's time to tour, you'll definitely know because it's going to be something big for real.
Oh, for sure. I think it's going to put the game on notice. Like I said, the collective is unique nowadays, and you're a selfless artist, and that's what we have here with Pell, a selfless artist that wants to put others on, even before himself at times.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be like, all right, let me get my shit together. But most of the time, it's all about love. It's all about the people.
100%. Being from New Orleans, and we've seen the artist that's been from New Orleans, of course. How come you feel as though that it's not on par when we bring up Atlanta, we bring up New York, we bring up LA? How come New Orleans doesn't get that credit? Because there's some legendary artists that come out of New Orleans.
Yeah, I think we do get that credit.
You
I
think so?
think I think we do. I think it's like, but that doesn't. We get some of the credit, but I don't think that we're compensated the right way, and I don't think that we're able to build things in a way that are sustainable here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we do get some of the credit. I used to think about that too. Like, man, nobody pays attention. People pay attention, then they steal, then they, maybe like, oh, well, this was inspired by da 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 da, but don't give back in a way. So it's like I don't think that we don't get recognition per se, but I don't think that we get the direct compensation and the direct um, help to like create an infrastructure and economic infrastructure for us to stay down here as artists and be able to like record down here. I think there's a lot of live performance that works down here for a lot of different genres. Obviously, it's New Orleans. Street performers, jazz. I feel like we have rock, we have, bounce, of course, like that's the obvious. And we have a DJ culture that's starting to like, heat up a little bit. I think it's all about creating something that can stand on its own without relying on these big looks. You know what I mean? I feel like Atlanta has a lot of their own scenes. I feel like Chicago, New York, LA, they're big enough to have a lot of their own scenes. You know what I mean? But then there's places like in Florida that you see like that are popping up too. I'm just mentioning more of the rap side, I guess, too, that like over the past 5 years you see all these names popping out. And I think that has created a scene there in which like on the recorded side people link up, and that's how they're making money together now. It's like we got multiple songs together. So like when I'm out in LA, when you're out in LA, let's perform that, or let me introduce you, like, you know what I mean? Or you can come around because we broke bread together. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's something that New Orleans is capable and always has been capable of doing. But I think there were a lot of separate movements. Um, and now there's a certain type of unifying feeling that's in the air that um, I like to think, I mean, global warming started for real, but I think this year and maybe the pandemic has leveled the playing field for a lot of people that thought everybody was on, different levels. So that's what I'm really excited about. I think it's the narrative is changing, and also the attention that's always been there is still there. We just now are producing in a way that um, we're working together to make sure it stays there.
Mhm. How would you define your 2021 so far? Because 2020, it was crazy, the pandemic. I read it online that it kind of changed your artistic writing creativity a little bit. And, then George Floyd happened, I believe, a few days before your birthday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that definitely put me, as it did everybody, in like a specific space where I was torn between pushing a record that I was gonna drop right around my birthday, on my birthday, Inhale,
Inhale.
and supporting um, supporting the protest and also a movement that finally was getting the recognition it deserved. It felt like in my mind. So I think that was a difficult time for me to feel justified in just focusing on music. Even I was blessed enough to shift my attention for, I feel like a month to 2 months, and eventually went back and circled around in July and started promoting again. And I feel like it was perfect timing for me again with the video that we did with Inhale, and also like a week of you know um, things for mental health. Essentially, we had a meditation, we had a workout, um, and we had like a therapy session. And I think that there's a lot of moments that we needed to inhale during that time, but like I think that I definitely enjoyed taking somewhat of a break, because it definitely strengthened my, not only my writing but everything else.
Mhm. And I'm sure you were working on Floating While Dreaming too, as well during that time.
Yeah, that and global warming. I mean,
Yeah,
literally, like,
global
I think
warming,
we
can't
were
forget.
we were really working on global warming. I was making songs simultaneously.
Mhm.
I just didn't even know that Floating While Dreaming 2 was like there yet. It was more so I was focused on, doing things for the community, because you look at, even that during that era, like we shut down like the I-10. People in New Orleans, like the protests were getting amazing. Like oh, I was just so proud of everybody coming together, and I think that we still have that within what's happening. I think obviously you've seen people die down a little bit more. People, since we've been outside and since things are you know returning to a sense of normalcy. I think you've seen a little bit more of a lackadaisical approach to how we're standing up for injustices around the world, and especially in our own backyards. But something about the moment in which all of this was happening was a real eye-opening moment to those who didn't have to deal with these things. So um, I'll always be thankful for that, for some eyes being opened.
And just think, we can all go through a pandemic, be on the same level, and you're still going to have racial injustice committed by the police.
Fucking right.
Yeah,
Fucked up.
it's crazy and unbelievable times. But Pell, could we expect a documentary from you? Because I feel as though you have a story to tell, as Biggie would say. I got a story to tell.
Wow, I got too many stories to tell. Y'all gotta, hey, actually, speaking of like docu-series, documentaries, shout out to Rap Portraits. I did something with my boy Holland, and Yo from DJ Booth,
Mhm.
and it is incredible. It's, actually that's where that little painting is, or that graphic.
Behind you.
Yeah, behind me. They gave me a big poster of it. Rap Portraits, I'm out that 504 is the name of that episode, and it chronicles my time during the release, the night of and the day after of the Global Warming Volume 1 release. So definitely check that out. It's on my Instagram. It's also on Rap Portraits at Rap Portraits. Yeah.
Make sure you go check that out. But any upcoming work, man, I'm sure you're gonna have some.
Sheesh, yeah, too much, man.
You can even speak on the Tom and Jerry things, the things that you
Let's
already did with
talk
the Apple
about it.
commercials. We got to get all that
Come
in.
on. Yo, Apple commercial. Come on, man. Stop playing with me.
Yeah.
The Apple commercial during the Grammys and the Apple commercial last year and Tom and Jerry this year and Bad Trip this year. Come on, man. Shout out to Kier, shout out to Joe, shout out to everybody who's been a part of the team and has been fucking with what I've been doing. But like it's been a blessing. This year has been crazy, bro. And then now, you know what I mean? I'm definitely doing more features. So I got a feature coming out this weekend actually with Kate Harris on
Okay.
Friday. Yeah, called Next Spot. Is really groovy. I can't wait for people to hear that. And then I also got another groovy joint with my boy Austin Mills off his EP that's dropping as well. So it's and then after that I got another one. I don't even know if I can announce. Fuck that. I think I can announce it. Big Gigantic and I are doing another one. I love them. They're my brothers. I just crushed Red Rocks with them. That shit was fire. And then you'll see me. We got a couple more show announcements, but the main thing is I'm releasing a lot of new features, and then after that I got something special for everybody from the project. So I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we just heard all the news here, and you're off to amazing things. But we got to get into. I read online G-Eazy.
Whoa, yeah. What about G?
How is it working with him? Because he's a legend from the Bay.
He's incredible. Just shout out to that man's tenacity and hustle. I feel like he's one of those people that people don't see how hard he works. Um, I learned a lot from him from touring with him just that short amount of time, as to how big you can take this shit. Because definitely he's doing it crazy, and also just the amount of repetition and consistency on a day-to-day level. I think he's one of the best at that. And a lot of people can't see that. You know what I mean? I feel like it's not something some people give access to that, or like this is what I do every single day or whatever. But no, he doesn't do that. You just see it in the proof of the work, and the fans that love his music definitely I feel like are in tune with how much he puts of himself towards his craft and towards his business. For real, the business is A1 for real.
What do you love most about your fans, the Pell fans?
Oh, Los Pelicanos.
Yeah. Oh, that's what they're called. Okay.
Well, somebody created an Instagram page called that, and then it just had a bunch of my stuff on it. So that's what I'm calling it right now. But I love my fans. My fans are really. I feel like a lot of my friends, they are my fans are like my friends. They're very introspective, very thoughtful about just life in general. I think I get a lot of like heady messages where like it'll be like even poetic about how they talk about my music, or even just like really cathartic to something that they've gone through in their lives. Like I had somebody tell me that like my music helped them beat cancer. I've had which like damn near made me cry. I've had people tell me, got over an ex listening to my music. Their mother died and it got them through that time. But a lot of tough times, I feel like my music has gotten people through, and it's gotten me through too. So I think that my fans are a lot like me in looking at music as therapy. So I really enjoy that. I really like the relationship I have with my fans, because it's one that's like maybe they are not always the most vocal as I would want them to be, but I know that they're internalizing what I say and are getting something from it that's actually beneficial, and that makes me feel better than anything, for real.
And it's because you can relate to so many people, and that's why it's important for people to support you, and especially your fans, because your music is important, especially in this day and age.
Come on, man.
Where
It's healing music, bro. It's
yeah,
healing music. That's what it is, man. I tell people that all the time about Floating While Dreaming. They're like, what kind of music? I mean, like, it's just healing music. You listen to Silly Phone. Like, I love that record because you can't listen to that record and not turn it off feeling happier. Like, I feel like there's gotta be some type of frequency in the game that allows people to feel good. You know what I mean? I think that there's a lot of good music, but a lot of it has heartbreak or bitterness in it. And I love those too. Like I need that in my shit too, because that's real life. That's what we all go through. But sometimes you need to change the frequency up a bit. And I think that's what I'm here to do for real.
And he's for surely putting on for New Orleans for sure. Pell, is there anything else you would love to let your fans know, the audience, the listeners tuned in? Floating While Dreaming 2 is available on all platforms. You got to go check out Global Warming Volume 1, of course. Anything else?
More new music, and the gang is all here. Global warming is about to go crazy. Volume 1, like you said, is out now. Floating While Dreaming 2 is out now. At Pell, yeah, on all my social platforms. Follow me and see what I do next, because it only gets bigger and it only gets better. Love.
Got that right. They got to follow you on Instagram and Twitter at Pell. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You can't forget that.
And like my well, no, I'm not on my TikTok yet. But if you want to just like look at my page, it's at Pellier FR. Pellier fucking right. You know what I'm saying? Pellier FR. So check me out on there too. I'm gonna start posting stuff again. It's about that time.
Yeah, I'm sure your fans are going to be tuned in with what you got going there as well. But Pell, I want to thank you for coming on the show here tonight, man. Listen, you're always welcome on anytime you need any promo. I
Thank
got
you,
Floating
man.
While Dreaming 2 in the rotation for you. I'm going to get Global Warming in the rotation for you as well.
Go.
Yeah,
Thank you, my brother.
of
Yeah.
course, man. Anytime you want to come on and chop it up about whatever you got coming on, you're always welcome, man. Of course.
Thank you, Mad Max. Let's rap after this too.
No doubt. You already know.
All right, brother.